You are listening to Feed the Beast, a weekly podcast exploring all things food with business partners, spouses, and your hosts, Chef Chris Paul and nutritionist Leigh-Ann Charles Paul of Everything We Eat. I hope you're hungry, because it's time to feed
your inner beast.
Welcome back to Feed the Beast. I'm Leigh-Ann Charles Paul.
I'm Chris Paul.
And today we will be talking to you guys. No guests today, but we will actually be talking about food trends in Philadelphia and I guess nationally as well. You know, we are an innovative city, so we're up with the times of food. So yeah, before we get started, just some Philly news. Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney actually last Friday signed a bill requiring chain restaurants to have label warnings on foods that are filled with sodium. Basically, anything that has 2,300 milligrams or more of sodium, they're required to put a label on it. And 2,300 is the max daily requirement for sodium intake, according to the FDA. And this isn't something new. I mean, New York did it back in 2015. And so I'm actually pretty proud of the mayor for doing this. And it was actually first introduced by Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown. And she was quoted saying, "For far too long, sodium has been an invisible factor for restaurant consumers. And that is not something Philadelphia can afford." For our listeners out there, Philadelphia, unfortunately, is it's ranked number one for high blood pressure among the largest U.S. cities.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's probably all the cheesesteaks in Chinese food.
Well, it's a lot of other things as well.
The
but
pretzels with the extra salt. We are known for a lot of sodium. And I think that makes a lot more sense, too, especially there's no, weird revenue driving model behind it, similar to the soda tax, which, that's a controversial subject, but at least this is just directly for the benefit of the people. It's saying that if you do have, something that literally has all your daily intake of sodium, that is pretty ridiculous. And I'm sure we'll soon realize that a lot of the things we've been eating probably do go past 2,300.
Yeah. And what's crazy, remember that time, I won't name where we went, but we ate at a certain bodega, and it was definitely, we ate that, and it was like a clump of salt was just dumped all over it. But what I thought was really funny is there was actually a poster of a man talking about high blood pressure and sodium, and then we came home and ate the food, and it was way past the salt intake that anyone should have. I think we ate a good, 3 tablespoons of salt?
Probably.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It wasn't even palatable. Yeah, so I think it's actually a really great idea, and it'll go into effect about September 2019, so expect that. And for other restaurants out there, I know, who may not be chains, maybe this is something that is good to consider.
Yeah, you could highlight, how your menu is low sodium and still flavorful.
Exactly. So, Chris, let's get started. What are we going to talk about today?
So today we're going to focus on about 4 major trends that I'm sure everyone's probably noticed, specifically for the last year and 2017 to 18. And we'll briefly talk about the 4, and then we'll go delve into each one. One big one is kombucha. I'm sure
I'm drinking it now. Wait, here. Never mind, no fizz.
Yeah. So you've seen it, and it's becoming more prevalent. There's a ton of local kombucha brewers that are really making some really great products. I would say even myself, I've been drinking it more and more. More recently, I've known about it for years, but now I'm actually consuming it almost once or twice a week. Besides that, we have poke bowls. I'm sure you've seen it. There was 1 or 2. Now there's
in 2016.
In 2016, now there's over a dozen poke bowl restaurants in Philly. Another one is a hyper-local food. The term hyper-local is really getting close to the source. I think we loosely throw the term local around, and sometimes people say things are local and it's from Boston, and it's yeah, that's kind of local, but is it really? That's pretty far. And then we have non-alcoholic drinks. So that's another new thing that's always been around. A lot of restaurants always had non-alcoholic drinks, but now we have a whole category of mocktails that are really well-composed drinks that are actually really flavorful and thought out, that I think are appealing to a lot of millennials who are, as kind of get close to that 30 or so, you kind of slow down on drinking and start caring about your health a little bit more.
Some of us.
Some of us, yeah.
As we said previously, a lot of these techniques are old and ancient, and it's not new, but the fact that we're becoming more globalized and bringing these different cultural techniques into everyday cuisine is really interesting, and it's a great way to commemorate those that have done those techniques for so long. So kombucha, let's get started. So kombucha, I actually used to make kombucha back in like 2012 because I lived in Portland, and kombucha was super big around there. And when I came back, somebody gave me a SCOBY, and I was like, okay, yay, I'm really excited to do this. And so I started the process. And for those out there who are not kombucha connoisseurs, but like to, have a little DIY component, we're like, yeah, we're going to make kombucha. And then we make kombucha, and then it grows, and it grows, and it grows, and you're one person drinking kombucha. You're like, oh my God, I cannot drink kombucha anymore. Unfortunately, about a year ago, I had to put my SCOBY to rest.
Now, can you break down what is a SCOBY for people who
So a SCOBY is it's kind of like a little fungus, really. It looks like a little mushroom cap, and then it grows these, kind of looks like tentacles in a way.
Spores,
yeah, it's spores, but they grow long like tentacles, and from that it creates little baby scobies. So you have the mother, and then there's the babies. And so I got a baby, which was created from the larger SCOBY. And you keep them in a glass container, and most people make them out of black tea, the kombucha. So they'll brew the black tea, they'll cool it down, and then they'll pour it into the jar with the SCOBY, and you have to kind of let it submerge, and then the SCOBY kind of rises to the top. And at least this was the process I did. Again, I am not a professional kombucha maker. So for anybody listening out there that wants to correct me, please do. Maybe come on the show and talk about kombucha for us. But I would share SCOBYs with people. Like, hey, you want SCOBY? And people are like, what? I'm like, oh, it's a kombucha baby. They're like, what? This was back in 2013. So it was interesting. They're like, what are you growing in this glass jar? But it tasted really delicious, and I knew the probiotics were really good for us. Probiotic health, as we know, is really good for the gut, right? Gut bacteria is really important. It already happens naturally. The yeast, feeds on natural sugars, and these organisms create like lactic acid and or alcohol, and that helps preserve different foods when we're actually taking the process outside of our body. So it's great because bacteria, the probiotics, have actually been found to help a lot of ailments, from just obesity to basic gut health and digestion to even neurological diseases and even some cancers. So, people have been using probiotics for a really long time. There's techniques such as sauerkraut, or methods, recipes such as sauerkraut.
Just fermenting in general.
Yeah, just fermenting, and it's great. And so kombucha is a more palatable way if you're now being introduced into the fermented scene.
Yeah.
It's
a
nice drink. Yeah.
There's a lot of options too. And I think in comparison, to just making it at home, there's so many different flavors. And to go over some of the local ones, there's Inspire Brew. They make some really good, fun flavors. They're actually they have it available on tap at some local groceries. We have Baba's Bucha. I've actually met her a few times, and she makes some really good kombucha. They're in Whole Foods. They're distributed throughout Philadelphia and the tri-state area. We have Funky Fresh Philly. He makes really great kombucha, and he actually makes other things as well, including some sauerkrauts and other products. We have Renewal Kombucha. And finally, we have Soleil Kombucha, which I've had, and it's one of my favorites. They're right out of Lancaster. They do some really fun flavors, really good flavors. And I think if you're new to kombucha, maybe try something that you're familiar with, So if you like berries, try like a berry one, and then work your way towards like just the raw kombucha. I've finally gotten to the point where now I'm drinking unflavored kombucha, and I'm actually really fine with it.
Oh, it's delicious. We actually go to Aldi, and we actually found this one. It's not from Philadelphia, but it's from Oregon, and it's Oregon roots, and it's called Wonder Drink. It's phenomenal. It's one of my top kombuchas for sure. And it differs in the sense that it doesn't use probiotics. It actually uses prebiotics, which is a process of feeding the probiotics that are already in your body and then lets you do whatever your body naturally would have done, which is great because it also allows your body, it's an individual process, right? So based on everybody's different based on their body, and having a prebiotic that works to improve what your gut system does is actually a really interesting process, and it'll probably catch on.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something you go with, when you're looking at, everyone wants to consume so much probiotics where it's like, what do you already have and how much do you need? That's a whole thing. So maybe start looking into some prebiotics as well. Mm-hmm. Our next trend, poke bowls. And essentially poke bowls are from Hawaii, and it's sort of like a sushi bowl without all the fancy stuff, as far as the presentation. Mm-hmm. So you have your rice, it's usually served cold, so you have your raw fish. There's usually some sort of pickled vegetables. Sometimes there's seaweed, and it's getting jazzed up in all sorts of ways now. There's sesame seeds. There's a bunch of different options. Tuna is one of the main fishes that's used, but I've also seen it with yellowtail, with salmon, even scallops, on a higher end. And that's been a trend. And there's a really cool one right in West Philadelphia called Pokemon. I just really like the name. And they make some really good flavors, too. And I think you've had it a few times. And besides that, there's Red Poke Express. Poi Dog Philly has actually been around a while. They had a cart. They actually still have a cart. And they've actually been doing poke before. I think a lot of these restaurants started popping up. And I think they were doing a really good job. Yeah. Just doing really awesome Hawaiian flavors that are really authentic. So check them out. They're on Instagram, Poi Dog. They have a cart. And I think they have a storefront as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Besides that, there's Poke Bowl, which is right in Center City. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so check out Poke Bowls if you haven't had it. If you like sushi, you'll probably enjoy that as well. It's just a bigger serving. And I guess it's a little bit more affordable, because you definitely will get full from one Poke Bowl.
It's on average about $10 to $13. But what's really cool for those, I know a lot of people don't like raw fish, but when it's in the bowl and it's mixed in with all the rice and all the other components, you can kind of sometimes hide that flavor. So that could be a good introduction to the sushi world.
Yeah, and there's also sauces involved. I think that definitely helps out.
Oh, definitely.
To marinate the fish. Maybe you're getting a little ceviche action going on. Mm-hmm. So really check out poke bowls. They're really good addition to our Philly food scene. Then besides our next topic, we have hyper-local food. And as I mentioned, I think we all use the term local loosely. And I guess there's no specific radius, although I think it should be, I guess, based on your demographics of what's actually local. If something's coming, like I said before, like from Boston, Massachusetts, is it actually local? I mean, it is if it comparison to it coming from the Midwest, but now we're getting into hyper-local, like things that are coming from like around the corner. And some of the farms that we've actually interviewed, like Heritage Farms, do a really good job using their, I think it's about 1.5 to 2 acres to really produce really high quality ingredients that's used by a lot of restaurants in Philly, including some of the top restaurants like Fork, Vetri. A lot of those guys utilize Heritage, and you'll be surprised by the amount of product they're producing.
Oh, definitely. Be sure to check out the podcast with Adrian. Yeah, Adrian,
and he was here, and he mentioned they do about 20,000 pounds of heirloom tomatoes a year on that 1.5 acres. And that's just one thing. Besides, they have a ton of microgreens, a ton of herbs, really great products, shishito peppers, and he's doing an amazing job. Besides that, we have one of my favorite farms, Green Meadows, which is in Gap, PA, not too far from here. And they're doing amazing things, as in growing things that are like outside of the realm of what you would think comes from Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Like they're growing things in greenhouses, including some really awesome citrus, like Trifoli oranges around. And they really...
What are Trifoli oranges?
It's like a really aromatic orange that you're not getting much juice out of it. It's a ton of seeds, but...
It's small?
It's like almost the size of a lime. But what you do with it, like as far as like the zest, extracting the oils, and the flavor is just like the most amazing flavor.
Does it just taste like orange?
It's like an orange mixed with like a flower mixed with like I can't even explain it. If you see it...
Like an aromatic flower?
Yeah. It's really amazing. And besides that, they have all the hyper-local things that are known to come from PA, like a pawpaw. If you haven't had a pawpaw and you live in Philly, you're really missing out. It's native to Pennsylvania, actually. It's like a banana flavor mixed with like a mango and a custard form. But it comes around right around now. So if you were to go to, let's say, Rittenhouse Farmers Market, Clark Park, a lot of the farmers market, you'll find it's green. It's sort of oblong, like this weird little looking thing. And then when you cut into it, it's a white flesh with these big black seeds. And people are making custards. They're making sorbets.
Actually, that's a trend too.
Yeah.
Pawpaws are now becoming
pawpaws are
being
amazing.
seen more often.
It's the closest thing, I think, to a tropical fruit that you'll get in this sort of weather. Besides that, another big thing in PA is Concord grapes. And going back to Green Meadows, they do some really amazing work. We just got local edamame from them. So we're actually going to use that in an upcoming event. But they're a really great company. And then one thing we overlooked is flowers and things. Castle Valley Mills in Downtown, they are doing a great job. A lot of people, including Vetri, actually use a lot of their grains for their pasta. So they're like growing really awesome quality grains that's used for bread as well as pasta. And they're also growing a ton of really great quality corn that's non-GMO. We actually use one of their product, the Bloody Red Butcher's Red Grits, which is a really amazing grits that actually, when you cook it, turns purple and it's natural. Really great flavors.
And it's smooth. I know I've heard from selling the grits. We do a shrimp and grits for brunch, and people are like, I don't really like grits that much because, it's gritty and hence the name. But these grits are very creamy and the color is beautiful. So your cephalic input's like, okay, I'm ready. But it's amazing. It's high quality.
And contrary to popular belief, all these things are actually really affordable.
Yeah.
I think we sort of associate like, it's local, it's going to be expensive. You'll be surprised,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's a price difference when you go into Rittenhouse Farmers Market versus Clark Park because of, the different neighborhoods. So things might be a little bit more expensive there, but you'll be surprised how affordable a lot of this is. And one more...
But where can people get these items?
A lot of these items are actually in your co-ops. So if you're going to Mariposa, carries a lot of these. That's right in West Philly. There's
Weaver's Way.
Weaver's Way. They have a lot of these. They actually have that. I think they have the Inspired Kombucha on draft. You can actually bring your own growlers. So it's a lot more affordable. And they carry a lot of these products, especially Castle Valley Mill. Green Meadows is a little bit more exclusive. You probably get those items in restaurants. Lancaster Farm Fresh is really big. Those items are readily available. Whole Foods actually carries a lot of their tubers. A lot of the sweet potatoes and things come from Lancaster.
And the farmers markets.
Farmers markets as well. If you need farmers markets, just go to .org. They actually... I think they have about over 30 different farmers markets all around the city from Germantown. Each neighborhood essentially has their own farmers market. And a lot of them are year-round. You'll be surprised. Clark Park is actually year-round, contrary to popular belief. Henhouse Market is really big. I know they're not year-round, but they're still around. And one more hyper-local food is another vendor is Local 130 Seafood. I actually just found out about them. They're right out of Jersey, and they're actually only getting seafood from, like, the Jersey coast. And it's, I don't want you to think like, Jersey Shore. It's like they're getting like really high quality, like tunas, even shrimps, a lot of...
They're going past the shore.
Yeah, it's not like right on the shore.
They're not on the jetties.
But really high quality fish, really good prices as well. And then lastly, we have Primal Meat Supply. Primal Supply Meats. They've grown into having a shop coming from like a small butchery, and they partnered up with Vetri as well. And they have a ton of really great cuts that are coming from sustainably raised animals right from the area. And they have everything, from beef, lamb, everything you can think of. Any cut you're thinking of that you go to a major supermarket, you could get directly from them.
And great. And even with the seafood, I can get that at, where can I get that one?
I know they pop up. It might be a little bit easier as a business. So if you're a small business owner, they're on Instagram, Local 130. I can't directly say where you could get it as a consumer, but as a business owner, I would look into it as an alternative.
Yeah, as a consumer, though, I guess just go on Instagram, and a lot of these companies are they're willing to work with you within reason. So if you need like a big order, just get a freezer, put a bunch of fish in there, you're good for the year.
And then the next topic is non-alcoholic drinks.
Non-alcoholic drinks.
And
That's my section. Well, only for this year, because as our listeners know, I took a year hiatus off of drinking. I turned 30, and I guess I started in January, and then I turned 30 in April. And I'm at my 10-month mark. So I will say I've been going out to eat, and I surprisingly have not missed alcohol except for those grueling, stressful days where I see somebody with a beer on a hot, sweltering day, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But I go get a kombucha, which helps me out there for that refreshing palate. But lots of places, and what's funny to me is now they actually have a list that says mocktails. Yeah. So there's like a whole... before it used to be maybe like one or two, or maybe some places
like Shirley Temple.
Yeah, or exactly, or like a Virgin Mary, or people wouldn't even have anything on there. You could just ask them. But now there's like an extensive list. I've been seeing about 5 to 8 items of mocktails, and people have also told me like, hey, anything that's alcoholic, I can make that for you, non-alcoholic, and it's great because there are a lot of people who are, conscious of their health. They may not want to drink as heavily, or pregnant ladies, pregnancies may be a driving factor for not drinking. Well, it is a driving factor for not drinking. It should be. So. I'm not judging, but it should be. And then there's also people who have had problems with alcohol in the past. And so why can't we all just go have a drink with our friends? And now we can, where it looks like, and seriously guys, this you and women, ladies and gentlemen, you could literally get a small whiskey ball glass and it looks like you're just sipping away at a nice cocktail.
Yeah, and I think a lot of places are just putting a lot more effort. Like I'm seeing a lot of really awesome infused sodas. There's a ton of places actually making their own kombuchas in-house, including Talk from one of my really good friends, Craig Russell's chef de cuisine there, and they're making their own kombuchas. And that's really awesome, I think.
Very
for
cool. Oh, yeah. International is making their own on Front and Cecil B. Moore. They're making their own sodas. I just had a Coca-Cola there. Oh, my goodness. The cola syrup. It was the most amazing soda I've ever had. So please check them out. It was phenomenal.
Besides that, we have fresh juices as well, which have been around. But I think the takeaway is if you are a small business owner or even a large business, you have your lunch crowd. And I think a lot of people can't actually drink alcohol anyway because they have to go back to work. So why not have some options that will push your margins a little bit more and a little bit more creative? And overall, you're going to make some good money because I think anyone's down to grab 1 or 2 non-alcoholic cocktails if it's in the right place, and not to mention that could actually go towards a business expense because it's not alcoholic. So that's something to think about. If you don't have any mocktails, I would highly consider creating something that's accommodating.
Yeah, I actually this is the producer, by the way, guys out there listening.
Ryan.
It's not just some guy that wandered into the studio.
Who is that? Excuse me, sir.
I work at a restaurant as a bartender and a server 1 day a week still. And it's primarily a lunch-driven crowd, and that's very common, where you get people that, they want something, but they don't want a drink. And we have, like, an extensive list of, like, juices and house-made sodas and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's great because people, as a bartender, sometimes it gets, like, a little annoying to make them.
I was just about to say, some people aren't annoying, but I guess not.
No, but I mean, I think that it's really just a conception amongst restaurant personnel. But as it gets more normalized, that'll just fade away.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a great trend.
Yeah.
Because you can still charge like $4, $5, $6.
Oh yeah, I mean we people can come in and get like a Diet Coke and it's $3 and unlimited free refills, which as a business owner, especially after the tax, the soda tax, you're losing tons of money on that. Whereas you order one of these house-made sodas that we make to order, I mean, they're $5 a piece, no free refills. You get 3 of them, that's, and as a server, a bartender, I mean, that's an extra $5 in your pocket.
That's true.
Like extra, $3 in your pocket, rather.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a good way to look at it, And it keeps your costs down as a restaurant owner because you're not buying the alcohol for it. You're using a cucumber or something, which, costs you like 2 cents.
Yeah.
So
definitely. So it's a very exciting trend. And for all those who have encountered me this year, thank you so much for for accommodating my mocktail needs. I've definitely had some amazing mocktails and some very enthusiastic bartenders who are quite excited to make a mocktail because they're like, oh, I think also for, mixologists, I think putting in alcohol, sometimes it can be a little bit easier when making something because it can... Oh, well, I put a little more alcohol in it so it tastes like that. But with a mocktail, it's like, it better taste good because there's nothing.
Yeah. And it's not like the more of them you drink, the better they're going to taste.
Exactly.
The first one has to be good.
Whereas with cocktails, it's like you make a couple that are good, and then after that, they're not going to know the difference.
I'm like, sir, this did not taste like the fifth one.
So some takeaways. If you're a budding entrepreneur and you're looking for things to maybe increase sales, kind of get in the trends of what people are thinking of.
Yeah.
Definitely kombucha, whether you're making it yourself. As we mentioned, we have these 5 companies that I'm sure they're all looking for new places to be in. Poke bowls, if you already have seafood, why not make it a special? Why not introduce it? Because people are looking for it. And with hyper-local food, as we mentioned, some of these really awesome local suppliers have some really exclusive products that you're just not going to see anywhere. And then when it comes to quality, it's literally they just drove it to you like down the street. So it's going to taste a lot better. And then think about your non-alcoholic drinks. I think there's enough of a crowd that, like I said, if you could make it happen and you're going to make a lot better margins and it's accommodating. You have a lot of people. They said people are looking at their health. You have underage people. You have people who are potentially pregnant. And then you have a lot of people that drink. Like I'll sometime get a mocktail just to check it out if it looks intriguing enough. So those are all things to think about going forward.
Yeah. And, some cautionary measures when drinking or using these fermented foods that we talked about before. We did discuss the high sodium intake. A lot of fermented drinks and foods can sometimes have a lot of added sodium, and so it can increase the sodium intake, which can be a little bit unhealthy. And then there's also added sugars. So key thing to remember is when you're looking at foods or drinks to just, if it says naturally fermented, it's a good thing because they're using probiotics and they're using a natural process. And the key also is that they are using probiotics, or even like the Oregon one, prebiotics. Some companies do not use probiotics or it's not used in a natural process. And so they have to increase those added sugars and sodium, which makes it less healthy for your gut and other things and other organs. And what's also important is just, telltale signs. If you shake it up and it fizzes, it's good. I know, we did Baba Brew, and I accidentally shook it, not even a little bit, and I opened it, and it was a never-ending volcano, and I lie to you not, the whole bottle over-fizzed, and I couldn't stop it.
Kombucha.
Please do not shake your Baba Brew kombucha for sure.
And any other
these
one. Local kombuchas who are actually using the natural process. I guess to recap, we have Inspire Brew, we have Baba's Bucha, we have Soul from Lancaster, and then we have Funky Fresh Philly. Those are all really great.
And Renewal, yeah.
And Renewal Kombucha. So there's options out there.
Yes. And before we close out, we're just going to highlight Tired Hands Brewery, a local brew pub in Ardmore, which is just outside of Philadelphia, not too far. And it was actually opened by husband and wife duo. I may butcher this name, but Jean Brulé, what is that, 6, right?
Yes.
Yeah, 6th, and Julie Foster, and they opened it up in 2012. They've won had a lot of recognition.
They're like the celebrity of beers. If you haven't heard of Tired
celebrity
Hands,
of beers in this area.
And the country.
That's true, you're right.
I think on Instagram, they must have over 100,000 followers.
Well, yeah.
It's like, they do a good job. I think we've had it. They do an amazing job of they just do so many different beers that I think it's just become a pioneer of
Oh, yeah.
experimental beers.
Yeah, and they've definitely had innovations with IPA. They won most Googled beers in 2016, so that's pretty notable. Best of Philly and other accolades. And what's great is that they're finally making their way to the city. Last Friday, they opened up in a lot, actually, at 2213 Frankfurt Ave in Kensington. So be sure to check out Tired Hands Beer Garden in Kensington. And right now they have an autumn theme, which is the High Harvest theme. It'll be open on Wednesdays through Sundays, and it'll be open from 5 to 10 Wednesday through Friday, and on the weekends it opens at noon. So they will
all. The food is really good.
Oh, the food is delicious, and they'll also be serving kombucha on their menu.
They make some really awesome breads. I think using some of the same yeast in the beer process, and one of the best, most simple dishes I had from them, they have a bread and butter dish where it's home churned butter and bread made on site with sea salt.
The bread is just thick slices. Amazing. Very good. Other than that, thank you all for listening in. Be sure to check us out on Everything We Eat Philly on Instagram for our happenings. And Chris Paul Chef, we use that account a lot more often as well. And check out what Chris Paul is doing as well on his own.
Well, yeah, feel free to check out our website, www.everythingweeat.com. We have some really cool events coming in the works. We're going to be at Audrey Claire Cook on Monday the 12th. We have a really awesome menu. Besides that, we're also going to be popping up at the Naval Yard periodically. Next one's going to be on November 1st. Feel free to check us out. We have some events at Herman's doing some brunches. Definitely come out.
Eat those shrimp and grits with the Butcher Red Mill grits we were talking about. Other than that, thank you all for spending your time with us. We love talking to you all. If you have any feedback, please post on our Instagram. Other than that, we will check you out next week on Feed the Beast.
Hello, everyone. This is Ryan Martin, the producer and sound engineer for The Grit Studios. If you enjoy our podcasts, the most important thing you can do to support us is share this episode with your family and friends and let us know what you think about it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts. Subscribing is 100% free. Don't know how to subscribe? Don't worry about it. There's a video walking you through the process in the show notes below. We will see you next week, and thank you for listening.